Welcome everybody. I'm Thomas Wiebernight from Ahead CRM. I am here with Tony Thomas, another Thomas, who is heading Zoho US for a bit more than a year now, right?
Yes.
And we are here in Austin on ZohoDay talking about all sorts of things Zoho, surprisingly. And Tony agreed to be here talking to me a little more about some details, and why not starting with something like you are now in here for that role for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations again.
Thank
or
you, Thomas.
maybe I should pity you a bit because of what all of the changes that are happening in economies, policies, which probably don't make your job too easy. So what do you think are the main changes that you have seen so far that have most impact on your business?
Yeah, the Zoho business in the US has been challenged in the last year because a lot of our business is small business.
Mm-hmm.
And while we are increasing our share of medium and larger businesses, small business has been our mainstay. And so small business right now with the current environment has been challenged by tariffs, by the economy in general. Raju talked today about the K-shaped economy.
Yeah.
So there's large segments of the populace that is not feeling the economy is doing better. And so small business has definitely taken it on the chin, as I see it, with all the uncertainty they've faced. And so it remains to be seen how much they recover. So definitely we have seen the impact of that in our customer base. And while there's a lot of new business coming on board, small business, we're seeing a lot of new customers seeking value. In terms of our current customer base, there's definitely been some impact.
Now, let me turn my original thought a little on top. You said, okay, you are getting traction in enterprise, which is a very good thing to have, because I mean, for a vendor, there's far more bang for the buck, so to say, in the enterprise than in the SMB market. What did you learn out of the past 2-3 years that you are really working hard on entering this market and are getting quite some traction actually? What are your biggest learnings in how far enterprises are different from SMBs, even the medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, certainly, and I think the entire engagement is very different with a larger business in terms of a solution focus versus a product focus. Right? Small business does not have the time and spend to pay for solutions. They expect the product to largely work out of the box with small amount of service around it. But with the larger business, they see a big part of the value, a solution that's tailored to their needs, that's more vertical, more aligned with what they're trying to do to differentiate their business. So it takes more of a involvement on our part to understand their business need, to tailor our solution to the specific business. So that's definitely a shift in the way we engage with these customers. And still, value is still important to them as you move up the chain. So that's definitely an important piece of what we do. But the entire process of engaging, of understanding their business and offering solutions that are tailored to what they need. And then, of course, there's the implementation itself, which sometimes we do through partners. Our own enterprise business solutions does a fraction of them. All of that is a different model of engaging than the small.
Okay, so now you also said industry right now. So where are industry solutions in the light of, well, enterprise versus SMB, more important on the higher echelons of enterprises, or more where there are smaller businesses?
So the mid-market is where we see a lot of our current traction. So we're not, the largest enterprises are still,
incumbent-centric.
Yeah. But, it's happening more in India. In the US, we are clearly in the mid-market, where you're seeing larger businesses come to us, but certainly not the largest enterprises are looking at Zoho. So we see the, businesses that need something that's more integrated, a most, cost-effective solution. We are offering value, including AI and all of the new features that people are looking for. So I'd say very much squarely in the mid-market.
So now, value is a word that we heard here a lot today, which you used right in this conversation for 5, 6 times, probably, if I counted correctly. Now, this is one of those key promises. We provide a lot of value for your money. So now, implementation is the other keyword there. If I look at a fairly priced software product or a solution, a set of products, a bundle, a platform that needs a lot of implementation, like the example of the enterprises that you just mentioned, the equation is sort of, the value equation is disturbed, because the affordability that your software offers sort of gets superseded by the sometimes inordinate, at least considerable fees that people like consultants are charging to get the software up and running to the needs and specifications of this business. So what's the stance of Zoho, your stance, to mitigate that, to change that, to, well, become even more valuable upfront, to avoid the big cost upfront, basically?
Yeah, no, you've definitely touched on an important theme in the industry today. People are looking for value, and that includes the implementation. So there's definitely pricing pressure to begin with on implementation. And I'm sure every segment of the market is facing that. Quicker solutions at lower prices, that's an important piece. And with AI coming into this, the intelligence is a layer customers now have to pay for. And so if they pay a lot for the basic implementation, that doesn't leave much budget for the,
for the real stuff, yeah.
Right? So in that sense, it's important for, all vendors to recognize that there's going to be pricing pressure on the solution that we've been offering. And so it plays into our hands at some level, because we are looking at reducing the cost of the implementation to make the value equation, as you put it, work. And we are seeing a lot of new tools, and with the agentic types of solutions, with code generation being a lot easier. The direction is very clear. The price of these kinds of solutions have to come down. So we're hoping the market comes to us in terms of having a product that offers value along with a solution that's appropriately priced, so that leaves budget for enterprises to invest in intelligence, which is going to be an important differentiator for companies going forward in terms of their overall productivity and differentiation they have to offer. So we think this is a good moment in that sense.
It is.
And the cost of implementation has to come down. And we are, of course, it's not an easy challenge, as you well know, but we are seeing, ways to bring that down with AI, as well as, being able to take solutions we build for one customer and try to leverage that with other customers. So we have a work cut out for us, but I'm optimistic that we can do that.
I know it's quite early stage, but is there a possibility that you can become a bit more concrete on how you are supporting or will be supporting the implementation costs going down?
Certainly. I think our, solution teams are already getting leverage out of AI. They're able to really compress the time it takes. So you take recordings of customer calls, they use that to create specifications that we share with the customer. So that whole process is being streamlined quite a bit now with AI. I'm sure there's a lot of what's in the process that they're working through, but they're already using these kinds of tools in their process and speeding up. Now, this is working best for the smaller customers, because when you get into larger customers, there's a lot of people involved, steering committees, this and that. So when you get into the enterprise business solution side, I have to say it's going to take longer. But for the mid-market, we are definitely seeing a speed up in the whole cycle of, going from customer requirements to specifications to reviews and implementation as well.
Now, the initial solution is implemented, and users, or the IT departments, depends on how freely they distribute the authorizations, have an incredibly powerful tool set at hand with legally used or shadow IT or free IT use generative tools that helps them generate new applications or changed applications. So we have no code, we have AI. So how do you think that all this in combination will change the make or buy equation even of enterprises or medium-sized, smaller-sized businesses when it comes to deciding for going for some set of software at all? In particular, when it's not exactly fully mission-critical like the CX type of software. So we don't want to talk fulfillment systems, tax-related systems, where we are probably in dire streets if we are going the DIY route. But for systems that are not exactly in deep need of legal compliance, in deep need of finance compliance, it is fairly easy to build these applications yourself these days. In how far do you see that endangering your business in general, or in specific, or the enterprise software business in general?
No, it's a very important question these days, as these tools are getting quite powerful now. And you're going to see a lot of companies and users within companies start to create applications that are useful to them. So that's already happening at some level, where people are going out and vibe coding something that is useful to them. Companies have to come up with a strategy to manage the chaos. It's not going to be so some degree of experimentation, some degree of users and administrators going and creating tools is going to happen. They're going to experiment with it until the company comes up with a well-governed policy around how this is done. So I think it's going to be important to understand that it's one thing to do this in isolation, but you need to be able to integrate into the company's data, the company's systems, company's policies, security, all of that. And so, there are going to be many things tried over the next few years. But we do think that a platform vendor that can provide value at that layer that enables companies to build intelligent applications on top is going to be important. That's why we announced the AppOS architecture, which in many ways, platforms have been around for a while, but we see ourselves as providing that value platform, enabling this AI, wipe-coded apps, as we put it, right? So it allows for a lot of dynamic, intelligent applications on top of this platform that is provided at the value that we are continuously striving for.
Thinking that thought a little further, so what I see right now in the enterprise software vendor market is that there is a kind of, let's call it a titanic battle for dominance, to make it a bit engaging, on two layers. One is the orchestration layer of then AI agentic processes, and the other is basically the vanishing UI. Business applications seem to become headless. Less governed users do not log into the application frame. They want to be able to use their application, well, from here, using, well, chat. Let's call it WhatsApp. Let's call it Teams, Click, or Slack, which brings a vendor that has these two levels as levers into quite a comfortable position. So, of which I can think of 3 vendors who could do this right now. And how do you think this will pan out? So will the application frame vanish and there will be bouncers, gatekeepers to the application UI that control basically the user interface and hence the ability to orchestrate processes? Or will this more come from the bottom side, that from the engine room, so to say, that there will be a few select vendors that are very strong in orchestration of processes, who then make the SAPs of this planet vanish in the engine room, as make them basically features of the orchestration? So what do you see moving on in this market?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a little hard to predict exactly.
The glass ball.
Yeah, so it's a little hard to predict exactly. My own best guess is most things are going to be around with us. You're going to have desktops, you're going to have mobile, you're going to have all of them existing and used in some mix that may evolve. Ideally we'll get healthier and be walking around talking to our phones rather than looking at them, talking to each other more.
Maybe we have it directly in the glasses.
Maybe it's glasses, yeah, I forgot about that. So not sure exactly how the interfaces are going to evolve, but I have a suspicion most things are not going away. We're going to still have our phone, our desktop, because there will be certain, applications and use cases optimized. The information flow you get from a desktop UI to your looking at charts to what have you, it's hard to replace with chat. Right? And I can see there's certain applications that is optimal and will continue to be. But for certain other things, opening a desktop may not be needed. And, so hard to say. I like this vision of people walking around rather than sitting at a desk all day. But we'll have to see if that happens.
Well, if they are working on the streets, then the cars are better reliably autonomous in order to avoid accidents there. What role would you see in this area for Zoho?
Right. So we'd like to be the platform, as I said, along with some of the core applications. You mentioned finance and
getting to that in a minute.
Correct. There's a lot of applications where the rules and data are very hard to trust a wipe-coded app to do, from compliance to, and it's not just a one-time thing. You have to keep up with new rules and changes and all of that, and that is only increasing for enterprises. The level of compliance, certification requirements coming in. So you need a vendor to be able to support that, rather than each company doing it, themselves over and over. So that type of platform and some core applications, I'm still seeing some as being bought rather than built. Of course, nobody knows where this goes, but that's my expectation. And we want to be the supplier of that, as well as providing increasing, intelligence within the platform that makes it easier and easier for our customers. So, and partners to build applications. I do see the value shifting closer to the customer in terms of that intelligent layer is going to be where customers pay the most money, which is why I think a stack that is, it's almost like utility software, right? You have to be able to provide good value at that layer. That's how we have built the business.
Okay. Final topic from my side is you just entered the ERP market. I mean, you had a lot of ERP-ish products that now form a suite, which is quite a bold step, because I mean that market is not exactly uncovered. There are a lot of incumbents, there are a lot of specialists, and even a good number of startups that think ERP totally different. Now you entered that market, which basically says you're quite convinced that you can sustain that market or live in that market, thrive in that market even. So what makes you so convinced of that? What do you do different from, well, all the other ones, that you are convinced that you carve out your niche in there?
It's a good question. I think, when you think of ERP, people are thinking we're going to take on the US market head on, and that's our strategy. But
big club, and after Oracle and SAP.
Correct. And that's not. If you look at the opportunity that's being opened up in a lot of developing markets with the, digital public infrastructure and other initiatives, it's really opening up the market for new players, right? And we see ourselves taking advantage of that and building out our ERP, because ERP is not a one product. It is a suite of things for every industry, for every vertical, customized for different segments of the market and so on. So we see ERP as a building block that is going to be essential to the platform, the comprehensive platform I mentioned. This is almost a necessary piece to doing this. There's another angle, which is if you combine the integrations with fintech and banking and all of those, connections we build into the platform, that's value for the customer that's very hard to replicate. And while the big vendors will do this, I think we'll win with our economic value in the end, because we're building it for the developing market and we'll take it to the developed markets. That's a strategy that you can see some others doing in the market today.
Last but not least, and in closing, what's keeping you up tonight?
Well, it's trying to keep our teams changing as the market reality changes. If you look at our business, it was very product centric in the way we approach things, best of breed, as was talked about today. But going forward, it's got to be a combination of platform, product, and intelligence. It's what's going to win the market. And that intelligence is going to require us to understand the customer a lot more. And so that shift is where I think our company is going to have to make and get people thinking along those lines. So that's probably the thing that, I'll be looking to make happen.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Tony.
Thank you, Tom.
This was highly enlightening, very interesting, because in my eyes, and I'm probably not alone, Zoho is doing a lot of things different from other companies. And it's always interesting to see your perspective and compare it to the other perspectives. And having that opportunity right now was great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Thomas.